For 17 years, people driving into New Orleans East have been greeted with one word: Caveman. Abandoned since Hurricane Katrina, what used to be a Holiday Inn became a 9-story billboard advertising the neglect and decay in New Orleans East. It was a daily reminder for Tangi Wall of how her neighborhood had changed since the storm.
This has been something that I think the entire community of New Orleans East has been concerned about for years post-Katrina.
But today, Wall says the long-abandoned building is a sign that says New Orleans East is open for business. The old Holiday Inn has new life as the High Rise, a workforce housing development with 144 apartments and 3 commercial spaces. The process started when the old Holiday Inn went up for foreclosure auction in 2017. That's where developer Peter Gardner comes into the picture. Gardner missed the auction, but by pure chance, had dinner with the man who did buy it that night.
And so we went out to dinner. I was like, hey, did you hear that that building went for auction and sold for really cheap? He's like, yeah, I do, because I bought it. And I was like, oh my God. And so the next day I hit him up. I said, do you want to sell it?
He calls himself a glorified house flipper. To simplify the renovation process, Gardner works as the developer, contractor, and owner.
I don't need to get paid 3 or 4 times on this. I need to make a product, and if it makes more money than my loans and things cost at the end of the day, then it makes sense for me.
The key to redevelopment was finding the beauty under the blight. In this case, the infamous Caveman graffiti was covering up an iconic piece of architecture, breeze blocks. And when developer Peter Gardner realized what he had in his hands, the light came on.
Holiday Inn put up around 20 hotels in this style in major cities across the U.S. in the 60s and 70s. The breeze blocks were both decorative and functional, hiding the air conditioning units for each room while giving the building an eye-catching design to lure drivers in off the interstate. But after decades of demolitions and renovations, the building is now one of a kind, earning a historic properties designation and a major tax credit.
Historic tax credits provide approximately 40% of the money to develop a place like this. Without that, I wouldn't be able to do this project.
It's those kinds of incentives that New Orleans City Council member Oliver Thomas wants to see more of in the city.
That needs to be the new New Orleans.
Tax credits and opportunity zones are tools that Thomas wants to see used more to bring developers into New Orleans East.
Well, not only will we increase opportunity, developers will begin to look at New Orleans differently in terms of where they do business and how they do business.
And if developers and the city of New Orleans can work together, Thomas sees the High Rise as just the start of a new New Orleans East.